Welcome back to Flick Favorites. I'm going to explain a biography, drama film from 2016, titled Sully. Spoilers ahead. Enjoy the content. Because both engines have failed, Sully, the flight captain, sends a mayday signal to the control tower. As they approach New York City and try to navigate through, his co-pilot Jeff warns him that they are at a dangerously low altitude. The passengers on board watch in horror as the jet flies by the apartment buildings and even brushes one of them. They crash when he declares his love for his co-pilot. "It was a dream," gasps Sully as he awakens. The media is describing U.S. Airways Flight 1-5-49's safe landing on the Hudson River, which saved the lives of all 155 passengers, as a miracle. But the incident continues to haunt him. Sully and Jeff are called to a meeting with a board of people, the NTSB, who are investigating the incident. Charles records the justification for their presence. Sully corrects him when he mentions the accident. It was a forced landing, they understood what they were attempting to do, it was not a crash. The crucial point is why he didn't just land at LaGuardia Airport as opposed to the Hudson. Simply put, there wasn't enough altitude. He didn't respond when asked how he came to that conclusion. He eyeballed it and drew on his 4 decades worth of aviation expertise. Sully denies the assertion that the left engine was still running and functional and claims that he felt both engines fail. They talk about how they are attempting to paint Sully as the villain while everyone else is saying the reverse while they are driving. Even the cabbie commends him for his bravery. Sully keeps in touch with Lori, his wife, and their 2 girls. She is annoyed by all the reporters who want to do a special story on her spouse in the neighborhood. He is surrounded by reporters as he exits the cab to get to his hotel, asking him things like how he feels about pulling off the seemingly impossible or doing miracles. They get in touch with one another again. Since the event, Lori has been worried for his well-being. The NTSB probe and all the attention are overwhelming him. Sully contacts Jeff, who is similarly stressed, and the 2 of them decide to go outside for some fresh air. He learns about the press interview tomorrow from Jeff. Sully is dissatisfied that he would only be evaluated on 208 seconds after having held his post for 42 years. The computer simulations will demonstrate that his choice was the right one, and they can go back to their regular lives, Jeff tells him. Sully is asked how it feels to be viewed as a hero in an interview with Katie Couric the following day. He claims he doesn't, he was only carrying out his duty. As soon as the interview is over, he turns to stare out the window and has another hallucination about his jet colliding with the city. The NTSB and Sully and Jeff meet once again. They inform the pilots that one engine was idle and that multiple simulation tests showed it was both conceivable and likely to return to LaGuardia. Sully disputes this, claiming that he felt both engines fail, and Jeff agrees with him. However, the engineers contend differently, and when pressed for evidence, they cannot provide any since the engine was harmed and sank after touching down in the Hudson River. In essence, they claim that Sully endangered the passengers and seriously harmed U.S. Airways. Later, Sully phones Lori from the motel. She informs him of their financial predicament and urges him to return to his job. They both feel nervous. Sully confides in her that he is concerned that the NTSB may be correct and he may truly be mistaken. In the worst situation, he would lose his life's job and be forced into an early retirement without a pension. Lori fears this. She then asks him why he did it and why he fell into the ocean after he has explained the new facts he has learned from the NTSB. Returning to the incident's date, January 15, 2009. The typical inspections were made because it was a regular day. Jeff and Sully leave. A big flock of birds flies directly into the engines 2 minutes after takeoff, forcing both of them to stall. The sensors are checked by Sully, who discovers that both engines have lost thrust. The passengers start to become quite anxious. He stays in touch with the control tower, and together they make every effort to get the runways clean for landing. He decides to land in the river after realizing they won't make it to any runway. Sully then issues a warning for everyone to prepare for impact. The flight attendants advise the passengers to brace themselves, keep their heads down, and stay down. The airplane then disappears from the radar when Sully makes contact with the control center once more to let them know that they would land in the Hudson. As they approach Hudson, Sully and Skiles start to descend. He ends his conversation and returns to the present while jogging across Times Square. The ancient jet is resting on the aircraft carrier as he sprints by it. He remembers a previous time when he was flying over a field while leaving a trail of smoke, landing the jet successfully, and having his partner compliment his flying abilities. The aircraft he was flying is now aboard the ship. When Sully enters a pub, the bartender recognizes him and makes him a drink called the Grey Goose with a splash, in honor of him. The men there raise a glass to him as their hero. Then he views TV footage of the tragedy. Another recollection to that day followed by a closer examination of the passengers. The passengers prepare for the worst as the plane descends by writing to their loved ones, praying, and/or sharing their final wishes with those closest to them. No one is hurt as the plane touches down in the river, but water soon starts to fill the aircraft. As the doors are opened and the rafts are inflated, Sully issues the command for everyone to leave the aircraft. The individuals put on their life jackets and go outside to wait for assistance in the bitter weather. When the ferry sees the plane, it helps the passengers. While the New York waterway boat arrives from the left side and evacuates the passengers, they assist the right-wing passengers. The individuals in the water are assisted by an NYPD helicopter that flies in. Sully is the last to depart after inspecting the whole aircraft. Everyone has been bundled in blankets and safely escaped. While Lori still doesn't know what occurred when Sully urges her to switch on the TV with their girls, he phones her to let her know he's okay. At the pier Sully asks everyone for the count. There should be 155 people including the staff. He is distraught. The officers at the scene ask him to leave it to them and go. When his boss Arnie tells him that all 155 people on board survived and enters the hospital where he is being treated, it seems like a weight has been lifted off his shoulders. Later, he is brought to a hotel where a staff member gives him a startled embrace. Sully gets an idea when he hears a woman on the news mention that the ferry, the NYPD units, and the pilot all arrived at the ideal time. He gives Larry, a member of the NTSB, a call and requests a favor. Because he believes that using human pilots as opposed to computers would provide different outcomes, he wants to delay the human simulations so that they are completed before his testimony. Sully will take his own retirement if they produce the same results. He contends that timing is everything and that if you are not hurried, you can do anything. Larry pledges to help in any way he can. Just before the hearing, Lori contacts Sully in tears as she expresses how terrified she is by the realization that he was one of the 155 individuals on board. Sully calms down after the call and walks inside the hearing room. Charles starts the hearing as soon as he sits down. Sully asked them to mimic a landing, so they did so using the same weather, altitude, and speed conditions. In the scenario, the pilots safely land by heading straight for a runway following the bird incident. The outcome of the second scenario, which uses Teterboro Airport, is the same, a safe landing. The pilots are questioned by Charles about their goals. If they can now get serious, Sully asks. Sully claims that because it was a life-or-death situation and none of the test pilots were under the same kind of strain as he and Jeff were, the human factor was not taken into account. That they would lose both engines at a lower height than any other plane in history was not foreseen, according to anybody. Sully contends that without considering the need for time for thought and decision-making, the pilots were told to fly to the airport immediately following the bird incident. How many practice runs did they have, he also inquires. It took the pilot landing at the second airport 17 tries to get it correctly. They run the simulations once again after Charles consents to setting the decision time to 35 seconds. This time, both possible outcomes result in a catastrophe. Jeff advises listening to what really happened now that they've witnessed what may have happened. For the first time, they hear the audio recording made in the cockpit. Sully offers Jeff his opinions on the recording as they exit the room following the recording. They performed an excellent job, saving 155 lives, and he is really pleased of their efforts. The hearing is resumed when they come back. They learn from Elizabeth that the left engine has finally been found. Despite the earlier belief that it may have been operable, it was utterly destroyed, precisely as Sully had said. The recording is sufficient to convince the board that Sully and Jeff acted morally. After speaking with specialists in the subject, Elizabeth came to the conclusion that if Sully hadn't been involved, everything would have gone wrong. He disagrees and says that Jeff and the flight attendants should also receive praise for the landing. Additionally, the emergency personnel moved quickly to ensure that everyone was taken care of. All of the people were rescued in about 24 minutes. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to stay updated on future videos. Leave a like to support the channel.